Slam. Victor Castellano's hand hit the table so hard the crystal wine glasses shook. I watched the ripples spread across the surface of my water, perfectly circular, perfectly timed with the pounding in my chest. Entry-level maintenance supervisor, he said, standing at the head of that massive mahogany table like a king addressing peasants. $38,000 a year. You should be grateful, Daniel. I sat at the opposite end, as far from him as the seating arrangement would allow, in my 10-year-old suit that I'd bought on sale at a discount store. My wife Elena sat beside me, her hand already sliding toward mine under the table. On my other side, our daughter Sophia shifted in her chair, and I could feel the anger radiating off her like heat. Across from us, Dominic Castellano, Victor's golden boy, his son, the heir apparent, sat stiffly in his expensive suit. But something was different about him tonight. He wasn't smirking the way he usually did. He looked tense, guilty, almost. You'll report directly to Dominic, Victor continued, adjusting his Patek Philippe watch, the one that cost more than most people make in a year. The position starts in January. I expect punctuality and a strong work ethic. Think you can manage that? 25 years. 25 years of marriage to his daughter, and this is what it came down to. Pity job, pat on the head, table scraps from the master's feast. Elena's hand found mine, not trembling, not seeking comfort. It was purposeful, controlled, a signal. Tonight's the night, she'd said that morning in our small duplex kitchen. Tonight's the night we end this. 15 years we'd been planning this moment. 15 years since she'd found those documents in my home office and discovered who I really was, what I really owned. And for 15 years we'd waited for exactly this, the moment when Victor's contempt would be so complete, so total, that the truth would hit him like a freight train. Dad, Dominic said quietly, surprising everyone. Maybe we should. This is generous, Dominic. Victor cut him off. At Daniel's age, with his background, this is more than fair. My background, there it was. The thing he'd been throwing in my face since 1999 when Elena and I got married. Automechanik. West Side. Working class. Not good enough for a Castellano. Sophia started to stand. Grandfather, this is... Your father has been a burden on this family for 25 years, Victor said, and his voice had that particular edge I'd heard so many times before, disdain wrapped in concern, contempt disguised as generosity. I'm offering him dignity in his retirement. The housekeeper poured more wine. The rain tapped against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Victor's Scottsdale mansion, and I sat there, perfectly still, with a slight smile on my face that I knew would infuriate him if he bothered to look, because I knew something Victor didn't. Something Victor had never bothered to learn in 25 years of looking down his nose at me. Now that we're all here, Victor said, settling back into his chair with the satisfied air of a man who believes he's being magnanimous. I'll get to the point. I'm 74 years old. I've built Castellano luxury hotels from nothing into one of the premier hospitality companies in the Southwest. He paused, waiting for appreciation, acknowledgement, the validation he always craved. Elena's thumb stroked across my knuckles under the table. Once, twice. Are you ready? I squeezed back. I'm ready. I've decided it's time to formalize succession, Victor continued. Dominic will assume the CEO position when I retire next spring. The transition has already begun. Dominic leaned forward, trying to look eager, but I saw it, that flicker of something else. Something that looked almost like dread. I'm honored, Dad, he said, but the words sounded hollow. You've earned it, son. Earned it. That was rich. Dominic hadn't earned anything in his life. Every position, every success, every door that had ever opened for him had Victor's fingerprints all over it. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. Of course, Victor went on, this affects the rest of the family as well. Elena, you'll receive 4% of company shares. 4%. His daughter, the woman who'd stood by him through his wife's cancer, through business difficulties, through everything. 4%. Elena didn't react. She just sat there, watching her father with an expression I'd learned to read over 25 years of marriage. She was calculating, measuring, preparing. Maria, Victor nodded at his wife. You'll maintain your current lifestyle through the family trust. And Sophia. He turned to our daughter with that particular look he reserved for disappointments. You'll receive a cash settlement of $200,000. I considered making it contingent on you pursuing a more substantial career path, but your grandmother convinced me that would be cruel. Sophia's laugh was sharp. How generous. Victor completely missed the sarcasm. I've also made arrangements for your financial security, Elena. Daniel, I assume you've been setting aside something for retirement. We're comfortable, I said quietly. Comfortable. He said the word like it tasted bad, like it was an insult to his sense of what life should be. Well, I've taken the liberty of arranging that position for you at Castellano Hotels. Entry-level facilities management. $38,000 annually. It's not much, but at your age, you should be grateful for any employment. The pension benefits are decent. The room went very quiet. Even the housekeeper stopped moving. This was it. The moment we'd been waiting for. The final insult that would justify everything that came next. Elena started to stand. Dad, Daniel doesn't need. Victor's face was turning red. He stood up, both hands planted on the table. Doesn't need? Elena, wake up. You married an auto mechanic. You live in a 1,400-square-foot duplex in Mesa. Your daughter drives a car held together with rust and prayer. Here we go, I thought. Let him get it all out. I have watched you drag my daughter down for 25 years, he said, pointing at me now. His finger was shaking with righteous anger. Living paycheck to paycheck. Embarrassing her at every charity function. Making excuses about why you can't afford a decent suit. Maria touched his arm. Victor, please. He shook her off. I asked the partners at my country club about you once. You know what they did? They laughed. They actually laughed when I told them my daughter married an auto mechanic from the West Side. My jaw clenched. That was the first real emotion I'd shown all evening, and I saw Victor notice it. Saw the satisfaction in his eyes. He thought he was getting to me. If only he knew. Grandfather, Sophia said, her voice tight with anger. You don't know anything about. About what? About sacrifice? About building something? Victor was in full swing now, the way he got when he believed he was teaching an important lesson. I built an empire from nothing. What has your father built? What has he ever contributed to this family besides disappointment? That's when Dominic spoke. Dad, stop. Everyone turned to look at him. In 38 years, I'd never heard Dominic contradict his father. Not once. Victor blinked. What? Just stop talking, please. Dominic, this doesn't concern. It does concern me. Dominic's voice was firmer now. Just let it go, Dad. Victor stared at his son like he'd grown a second head. The confusion on his face would have been funny if the moment wasn't so charged with tension. I reached slowly into my jacket pocket, pulled out my phone, placed it on the table with deliberate care. The movement drew every eye in the room. Victor, I said quietly, and something in my tone made him look at me. Really look at me, for maybe the first time all evening. I think there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, he said, but some of the bluster had gone out of his voice. Is your pride making you think you're too good for honest work? I'm talking about Castellano luxury hotels. Your empire, the one you built from nothing. His eyes narrowed. What about it? You didn't build it from nothing. I kept my voice level, conversational. You built it with considerable help from your largest shareholder. The rain against the windows seemed suddenly very loud. The company has several institutional investors, Victor said, but I heard the uncertainty creeping into his voice. That's standard practice for any successful. One investor holds 49% of your company, I interrupted gently. More than everyone else combined.
I'm curious, Victor.
Do you know who that is? Dominic closed his eyes briefly. He knew what was coming. We'd planned this 3 months ago in a coffee shop downtown, when he'd slid that folder across the table and said, I know who you are. Victor's face changed. Just slightly. The first flicker of real uncertainty I'd ever seen there. That information is confidential, he said. Protected by privacy agreements. It is, I agreed. But I can tell you exactly who it is. I picked up my phone, opened my email, found the message my lawyers had prepared. Would you like to know? Dad. Dominic said quietly, almost a warning. Victor ignored him. He was staring at me now with something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Not contempt. Not dismissal. Something closer to fear. I turned my phone screen toward him. I sent this to your corporate email approximately 30 seconds ago. His hand actually trembled as he reached for his own phone. Pulled it from his pocket. Opened his email. I watched his face as he read. Watched the color drain from his skin. Watched his expression go from confusion to disbelief to something that looked almost like horror. This is... His voice came out as barely a whisper. This is impossible. Morrison Capital Holdings, I said calmly. That's me, Victor. I've been your largest shareholder since 2009. Before that, I held smaller positions dating back to 1999. Dominic sat back in his chair. If I didn't know better, I'd say he looked relieved. And you knew about this? Victor turned to his son, and there was betrayal in his voice. For about a year now, Dominic said quietly. Yes. I pulled up another document on my phone. Let him see the numbers. Let them all see. Net worth, approximately $1.7 billion. Diversified portfolio across mining, real estate, renewable energy, and technology. Castellano Luxury Hotels represents about 4% of my total holdings. Elena was watching her father with no surprise on her face, just cold satisfaction. Sophia had her hand over her mouth, but her eyes were bright with something that looked like vindication. Maria had tears running down her cheeks. And Victor looked like I just told him the sun wasn't going to rise tomorrow. Every expansion you've bragged about, I continued, my voice still quiet, still conversational. The Sedona Resort in 2012, the downtown Phoenix flagship in 2016, the Santa Fe acquisition last year, all funded with capital I approved. Every cash flow crisis, quietly resolved by my investment firm. The Tucson project that's currently 8 months behind schedule and $3 million over budget, I've already authorized the additional funding to keep it alive. Dad! Sophia started to say something, but I could hear the emotion in her voice. You're really doing this. I looked at Elena, my partner, my co-conspirator, the woman who'd found those documents 15 years ago and instead of being angry, had taken my hand and said, one day we show him, when the time is right. Your wife asked me to, I said, still looking at Elena. She said 25 years was enough. Victor turned to his daughter like she'd stabbed him. You knew. His voice cracked. You knew.
Elena stood slowly.
When she spoke, her voice was ice. For 15 years, Dad. 15 years I've watched you disrespect my husband while he bankrolled your empire. 15 years I've bitten my tongue while you insulted him at family gatherings. While you refused to acknowledge him. While you made him feel small. She placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. Tonight, that ends. The confrontation has begun, but the real bombs are about to drop. Keep watching to see how a billionaire who's been hiding in plain sight for 25 years dismantles an empire built on his own money. And what happens when his wife reveals she's been playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. If you're enjoying this story of patience, strategy, and the ultimate revenge, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. Maria's hand was still over her mouth, her mascara running down her cheeks. She looked at Elena like she didn't recognize her own daughter. Elena, she whispered, how could you keep this from us? How could I? Elena's laugh was bitter. Mom, Dad refused to come to my wedding. He cut me off completely because I married Daniel. For 25 years, he's treated my husband like garbage. And you're asking how I could keep a secret? Victor finally found his voice. You let me believe. All these years, you let me think that you were self-made? I finished for him. That you built your empire through your own genius and hard work. I shook my head. Victor, you are a good businessman. You have instincts, vision, drive. But you were undercapitalized. Every major expansion you wanted to make, you didn't have the liquidity. That's where I came in. I pulled up more documents on my phone, slid it across the table so he could see the evidence himself. The Sedona Resort. You needed 15 million. Your banks wouldn't loan it. Too risky, they said. But a mysterious investment firm stepped in. 22 million for the Phoenix flagship. Same story. 38 million for Santa Fe. Every single time it was me. Dominic was watching his father's face with something that looked like pity. And the Tucson project, I continued. The one that's hemorrhaging money right now. The one that's 8 months behind schedule and bleeding your company dry. I've already wired 12 million to cover the overruns. Without my money, you would have had to declare bankruptcy 3 years ago. This is fraud, Victor said, but his voice was weak. Some kind of elaborate. It's not fraud. I cut him off gently. Every investment was legitimate. Every share purchase was legal. Filed with the SEC, registered with the state of Arizona. The only thing I did was keep my identity private, which is perfectly legal for investors using holding companies and trusts. I stood up, buttoning my jacket. The same jacket Victor had probably noticed was off the rack from a discount store. The same jacket I'd worn on purpose, because I wanted him to see exactly what he expected to see. The email I sent you includes a formal notice, I said. I'm calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning at 9. As majority shareholder, that's my right. You can't do this. But even as he said it, Victor knew he'd already lost. I can. And given the company's recent performance issues, the Tucson delays, the 3 discrimination lawsuits your lawyers quietly settled in the past 2 years, the failed Alberta expansion that cost $7 million, I paused, looked meaningfully at Dominic, and certain questions about nepotistic hiring practices and actual performance metrics versus attributed performance, I expect the board will vote for a leadership change. That's when Dominic stood up. He's right, he said. About all of it. The room went dead silent again. This time, even the rain seemed to stop. What are you doing? Victor asked his son, and I heard the fear in his voice now. Raw and undisguised. Something I should have done years ago. Dominic reached into his briefcase. I noticed his hands were shaking slightly and pulled out a folder, slid it across the table to his father. These are my real sales numbers for the past 3 years, not the ones attributed to me through your connections and your reputation. The deals I actually closed. On my own. Victor picked up the papers. His face went gray as he scanned them. This is... You closed less than 30%. Less than 30% of what's been credited to me, Dominic confirmed. The rest? Your relationships. Your name. Your legacy opening doors I couldn't open on my own. He looked at his father, and I saw genuine pain in his eyes. Dad, I vote with Morrison. You need to step down. You're betraying me? Victor's voice broke. Your own father? After everything I've done for you? After everything you've done for me? Dominic's voice rose. Dad, you've crippled me. I'm 38 years old, and I don't know if I'm actually good at anything because I've never had to do anything on my own. You've built me a golden cage and called it love. He turned to address the whole room. I'm resigning my position effective immediately. I'm voting for new leadership. And I'm going to figure out who I actually am without your name propping me up. I'd known Dominic was going to do this. We'd planned it 3 months ago. But hearing him say it out loud, seeing the resolve in his face, I felt something unexpected. Respect. Maybe even admiration. Why? Victor asked, and he wasn't asking Dominic anymore. He was asking me, why are you doing this? After all these years, why now? Because last month Elena called me, I said simply. She told me you were planning this dinner, that you were going to announce your succession plan. And she said something I'll never forget. I looked at my wife. She was standing now, hands flat on the table, looking at her father with an expression I'd seen her practice in our bathroom mirror. She said, 25 years is enough. Tonight we show him who you really are. Not for revenge. For justice. For our family. For every time he made you feel small. Elena picked up where I left off, her voice steady and cold. You were going to give me 4%, Dad. 4% of a company I watched you build my entire life. 4% while you gave Dominic 60% and controlling interest. 4% was what your daughter's loyalty was worth to you. Elena, I was trying to be fair. Fair. She laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. You were going to offer my husband a $38,000 a year job. To make him report to Dominic. To humiliate him one final time before you rode off into the sunset with your legacy intact. Sophia spoke up then, her voice quiet but firm. Grandpa, I'm 28 years old. I have a master's in social work. I run a nonprofit that serves 300 homeless clients a month. And you were going to give me $200,000 like I'm a child who needs an allowance. Sophia, I thought. You thought I was a disappointment because I don't chase money. She shook her head. But the only disappointment in this room is you. Because you had a daughter who loved you. A son-in-law who quietly saved your company over and over. And a granddaughter who's actually making a difference in the world. And you couldn't see any of it because you were too busy measuring success by the wrong metrics. I walked toward the door. Elena and Sophia followed. But before I left, I turned back to Victor one more time. Here's my offer, I said. Resign tomorrow morning. Accept a consulting position with significantly reduced authority. Make a graceful public statement about wanting to spend more time with family. Do all that and you keep your salary, your benefits package, and your dignity. And if I refuse? He was still trying to sound defiant, but I heard the resignation underneath. Then the board votes you out anyway, but messily. Your legacy becomes a cautionary tale about pride and mismanagement. The business press will have a field day with it. Founder forced out of his own company. Hotel magnate didn't know majority shareholder was his son-in-law. The headlines write themselves. I paused at the door. Oh, and Victor? That Tesla in your driveway? The one you love so much? Paid for with dividends from my investment. This mansion? You refinanced it in 2013. Guess who approved that loan through their private investment firm? His face went even paler. Your country club membership. Your winter vacations in Cabo. The private box at the Suns games. All of it. Funded by profits from a company I own nearly half of. I let that sink in for a moment. You asked what I've contributed to this family, Victor. The answer is everything you have. We left him sitting there at the head of his table, in his mansion that I'd helped him keep, surrounded by the evidence of an empire built on another man's foundation. The ride home was quiet at first. Elena drove. She always drove when emotions were running high, and Sophia sat in the back seat of our old Corolla. The rain had gotten heavier, and the windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm as we made our way from Scottsdale back to Mesa. Mom, Sophia finally said. You knew for 15 years? Yes. How? When? Elena glanced at me, then back at the road. 2010. I was cleaning your father's office. Found some documents he'd hidden behind a filing cabinet. I didn't hide them, I protested mildly. I just didn't display them prominently. $600 million, Daniel. You had $600 million and we were living on your mechanic's salary and my teacher's pension. Sophia leaned forward between the seats. Wait, 600 million? I thought you said. That was 15 years ago, I explained. The portfolio's grown since then. Mining investments, real estate, tech stocks, renewable energy. When you diversify properly and let compound interest do its work. 1.7 billion, Sophia said, like she was testing the words. My dad is worth $1.7 billion and he drives a 2015 Corolla. The Corolla is reliable, I said defensively. Elena laughed despite herself. Then the laugh turned into something that sounded like a sob. Then back to a laugh. She pulled over into a parking lot, some closed strip mall, and put the car in park. I'm sorry, she said, and I realized she was crying. I'm sorry I kept it from you all these years, Daniel. I'm sorry I made you wait so long to. Hey, I took her hands. We agreed. We both agreed. The timing had to be right. And tonight was right. Was it, though? She looked at me, mascara running, and I saw not the calculating strategist who'd faced down her father, but the woman I'd fallen in love with at a community center 26 years ago. Did we just destroy my family? No, Sophia said from the back seat. Grandpa destroyed his family 25 years ago when he refused to come to your wedding. Tonight, you just showed him the consequences. Your daughter's right, I said. And for what it's worth, I don't think we destroyed anything. I think we're forcing a reckoning that's been coming for a long time. Elena wiped her eyes. He looked so broken. Good, Sophia said fiercely. Maybe broken is what he needs to be to finally see clearly. We sat there for a few more minutes, rain drumming on the roof of our old car, processing what had just happened. Then Elena started the engine again and we headed home. Our duplex in Mesa looked exactly the same as always. 1,400 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a small yard with grass that needed mowing. The porch light was on. We'd left it on before we went to dinner, and it cast a warm glow over the front door. Home, Elena said softly. Home, I agreed. And the funny thing was, I meant it. I could have bought any house in Arizona, a mansion in Paradise Valley, an estate in Scottsdale, a penthouse in downtown Phoenix. But this duplex, with its creaking floors and its single-pane windows and its kitchen where all 3 of us had to squeeze in if we wanted to cook together, this was home. We were inside for maybe an hour before the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Dominic standing on my porch, still in his suit from dinner, looking soaked from the rain and utterly exhausted. Can we talk? He asked. I stepped aside. Come in. He'd never been to our house before. In all the years we'd been family, Dominic had never once visited. I saw him looking around the small living room, taking in the worn furniture, the family photos on the walls, the bookshelf made of cinder blocks and planks that I'd built when we first moved in. It's nice, he said, and he sounded like he meant it. It's real. Coffee? Elena asked, appearing from the kitchen. Please. We sat in the living room, Dominic on our old couch that sagged in the middle, me in the armchair that had been my grandfather's. Elena brought coffee in mismatched mugs. We'd never bothered buying a matching set. I need you to understand why I did this tonight, Dominic started. You already told me, I said, 3 months ago at that coffee shop. Not all of it. He wrapped his hands around the mug like he was cold. My father, he loves me. I know he does, but he's been suffocating me my entire life. Every door that opened, every opportunity one got, every success I had, it was all him, and I started to hate myself for it. Sophia came out of her room, saw Dominic, and sat down on the floor near the bookshelf. About a year ago, Dominic continued, I hired a forensic accountant. I told Dad I wanted to understand our company's financial structure better. Really, I wanted to understand why we kept succeeding when we should have failed. He pulled out his phone, showed us documents. Every time we faced bankruptcy, and there were 4 times in the last decade, mystery capital appeared. Cash injections from shell companies, anonymous investors, and I started tracing it all back. To Morrison Capital Holdings, I said. To you. He looked at me, and when I figured it out, I felt relieved. Is that crazy? I felt relieved because it meant Dad wasn't the genius he thought he was. It meant maybe there was room for me to be something other than his shadow. That's not crazy, Elena said softly. Tomorrow at the board meeting, Dominic said. When they vote Dad out, I'm resigning too. You don't have to do that, I told him. Yes, I do. I need to figure out who I am without the Castellano name. Maybe I'll go to business school. Maybe I'll work for another hotel company, starting at the bottom. I don't know, but I need to find out what I'm actually capable of. He looked at all of us, his eyes red. I'm 38 years old and I've never actually earned anything. That stops tomorrow. We sat with him for another hour, talking about second chances and new beginnings and the courage it takes to admit you don't know who you are. When he finally left, I walked him to the door. Thank you, he said, for giving me a reason to finally be honest. After he left, I found Elena standing in our bedroom, looking out the window at the rain. "Tomorrow changes everything," she said. "Yes. Are you scared? Terrified?" She turned to look at me. "But we're doing the right thing?" I thought about Victor, sitting in his mansion, his empire crumbling around him. I thought about Dominic walking away from everything to find himself. I thought about 25 years of insults and dismissals and being made to feel small. "Yes," I said. "We're doing the right thing." I didn't sleep much that night. Neither did Elena. We lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain finally stop and the desert silence take over. "Tell me the story again," Elena said quietly around 3 a.m. "About how we met." I smiled in the darkness. She asked for this story whenever things felt uncertain, whenever the world seemed too complicated. "Community Center on Van Buren," I started. "November 1998. I was 22, working 2 jobs, wearing a jacket with patches on the elbows." "I remember that jacket," she murmured. "I loved that jacket. You were volunteering, pouring coffee with this smile that made me forget how tired I was. My father had made me go, said it was good for the family image to be seen helping the less fortunate. God, I hated the way he said it. But you went every week anyway," I said, "because you actually cared. And you were there every week too, serving food, talking to people like they mattered." We'd fallen in love over shared Saturday evenings at that community center, over conversations while cleaning up after dinners, over the realization that we both wanted to make the world better, not just look good doing it. "I didn't tell you about the money," I said, like I had 100 times before. "I know. I needed you to choose me for me. I know. Even when your father cut you off completely, I'd choose you again," she interrupted. "Every single time, I'd choose you." That's what I'd needed to hear. At 8:30 the next morning, my phone rang. "Victor." I almost didn't answer. Let it ring 3 times before Elena nudged me. "Hello. I'll resign." His voice sounded hollow, defeated. "I'll make whatever statement you want. But I need to ask you something." "Go ahead. Why did you stay silent all these years? If you wanted revenge, you could have destroyed me a dozen times over. Why wait until now?" I thought about that for a moment. Thought about 25 years of slights and insults. About every family gathering where he'd managed to not look at me. About every time he'd introduced Elena to his business partners and somehow forgotten to mention she had a husband. Because it was never about revenge, Victor. As long as you were just being cruel to me, I could ignore it. But last night, you showed Elena and Sophia exactly how little they matter to you. That's when silence stopped being an option. Long pause on the other end. "I never meant to hurt them." "I know, but you did. And that's something you're going to have to live with." "For what it's worth," he said quietly. "I was wrong about you. All these years. I was wrong." "Yes," I said simply. "You were." He hung up. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. at Castellano Hotel's headquarters, a modern glass building in downtown Phoenix that Victor had built 5 years ago with, though he hadn't known it, my money. Elena insisted on coming with me. So did Sophia. We drove there in the Corolla, and I saw the valet's face when we pulled up to the executive parking area. He clearly couldn't reconcile the old Toyota with someone attending a board meeting. "Sir, this area is reserved for Daniel Morrison," I said. "I'm on the agenda." He checked his tablet and his eyes went wide. "Oh, yes, sir. Right this way." The boardroom was on the 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A table that could seat 20 but today held only 9. The board members were already there, looking confused and concerned about the emergency meeting. Robert Chun, the board chair, stood when we entered. He was 62, a veteran of the hospitality industry who'd known Victor for 30 years. "Mr. Morrison," he said, and I heard the uncertainty in his voice. "When I got the notice last night about this meeting, I have to admit I was surprised. I imagine you were." I took a seat at the table. Elena and Sophia sat in chairs along the wall. Victor entered last. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His suit was still impeccable, his hair still perfectly styled, but something fundamental had changed in his bearing. "Shall we begin?" Robert asked, looking between Victor and me like he was trying to understand the dynamic. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," I started. "For those who don't know me, I'm Daniel Morrison. As of last night, I publicly disclosed my position as majority shareholder of this company. 49%. The murmurs around the table were immediate. Several board members pulled out their phones, presumably checking the filings. Sarah Mitchell, one of the independent board members, spoke up. "Mr. Morrison, I've reviewed the overnight filings. Everything appears to be in order legally, but I have to ask, how have you been the majority shareholder since 2009 without any of us knowing? I used a series of holding companies and trusts, all perfectly legal, all properly registered. I remained anonymous because I believed the company functioned better without my interference." "Then why reveal yourself now?" another board member asked. I slid folders across the table to each of them. "Because the company is at a crossroads. These documents outline serious concerns about current management." They opened the folders. I watched their faces change as they read. The Tucson project. 8 months behind schedule, $3 million over budget. The discrimination lawsuits, 3 of them in 2 years, all settled quietly with non-disclosure agreements. The failed Alberta expansion that cost $7 million. And performance metrics that don't match reality. "This is character assassination," Victor said, but his voice lacked conviction. That's when Dominic walked in. Every head turned. Victor's son, walking into a board meeting he wasn't scheduled to attend, carrying his own folder. "I have additional information the board should consider," Dominic said. He walked to the front of the room, and I saw Victor's face. Confusion mixed with betrayal mixed with something that might have been fear. "These are my actual sales numbers for the past 3 years," Dominic said, handing out documents. "Not the numbers attributed to me through my father's connections, but deals I personally closed, independent of his influence." Board members read in silence. Someone let out a low whistle. "It's less than 30% of what's on the official reports," Dominic continued. "My father has been inflating my performance to justify nepotistic promotion decisions. And I'm not the only one." He pulled out more documents. 3 other family members or close friends of my father hold positions they're not qualified for. I have documentation of their actual performance versus their official evaluations. "Dominic," Victor said, his voice breaking, "why are you doing this?" "Because you were going to make me CEO, Dad. And I don't deserve it. I haven't earned it. And this company deserves better than nepotism." Dominic turned to the board. "I vote in favor of new leadership, professional management with no family connections. And I'm resigning my position effective immediately." The room erupted in murmurs. Robert Chin had to call for order. "Mr. Castellano," Robert said to Victor, "do you wish to respond to these allegations?" Victor looked around the table, at the board members he'd worked with for years, at his son who'd just publicly dismantled him, at me, the son-in-law he'd spent 25 years despising. "What's the point?" he said quietly. "My son has betrayed me. My son-in-law has been secretly controlling my company for 25 years. What's left to say?" "You can say you'll fight this," Robert offered. "We can investigate these claims, conduct a thorough review." "No." Victor stood up. "I resign, effective immediately. I'll accept whatever consulting position Mr. Morrison deems appropriate. I want this to be over." Robert looked shocked. So did several other board members. They'd expected a fight. "Mr. Castellano, are you certain? We can give you time to." "I'm certain." Victor looked at me. "Daniel has made it clear that I have no actual power here, that I never did. So what's the point of fighting?" "Motion to accept resignation?" Robert said after a long moment. "Second," said Sarah Mitchell. "All in favor?" Every hand went up except Victor's. "Motion carries." Robert turned to me. "Mr. Morrison, as majority shareholder, do you have a recommendation for interim CEO?"
Sharon Kimo.
Currently VP of Operations for Marriott International. She's expressed interest. 30 years of hospitality experience. No family connections to complicate judgment. I know Sharon, Sarah said. Excellent choice. Her turnaround of the Marriott Southwest Division was remarkable. We spent the next hour discussing logistics. Sharon would start immediately. An external audit would review all recent projects and personnel decisions. A new management training program would be instituted, open to all qualified candidates. Through it all, Victor sat silently at the end of the table, the king who'd just lost his kingdom. As the meeting broke up, Dominic approached his father. Dad, don't. Victor held up a hand. Just don't. I can't hear it right now. He walked out without looking back. Elena found me in the lobby afterward. How do you feel? Honestly, kind of sick. You did the right thing. Did I? I just destroyed a 74-year-old man's legacy. No, Sophia said, joining us. He destroyed it himself through pride and poor decisions. You just forced the consequences. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was justice, not revenge. But watching Victor walk out of that boardroom, shoulders slumped, looking old and broken, it didn't feel like victory. Over the next 6 months, things changed in ways I hadn't entirely expected. Sharon Kim took over as CEO and immediately instituted reforms. The Tucson project was completed, on time under new management. Employee satisfaction scores went up 40%. The company had its best quarter in 5 years. Dominic enrolled in business school at Arizona State. Started over at 38, sitting in classes with people half his age. He also got a job as a sales associate at a competing hotel chain, starting from the absolute bottom. Last I heard, he closed his first completely independent sale and called me crying with joy. Elena started a scholarship fund, the Morrison Foundation, supporting working-class students pursuing higher education. 25 full-ride scholarships in the first year. Sophia's nonprofit expanded. We bought a new facility, hired professional staff, tripled their capacity to serve Phoenix's homeless population. She named it Morrison Community Services, and I'd never been more proud of anything in my life. And me? I kept working part-time at the auto shop. 3 days a week under car hoods, grease on my hands. My coworker Ramon asked me once, "You know you don't have to work here anymore, right? Like, you could buy this whole shop." "I know," I said, "but I like it here." "You're weird, Morrison." "Yeah, I am." We still lived in the duplex. Bought it outright, paid cash, but didn't change anything. Same furniture, same old Corolla in the driveway, same life we'd built together over 25 years. The only real change was that we weren't hiding anymore. It was a Saturday in May, 6 months after the board meeting, when Victor showed up at our door. I opened it to find him standing on my porch, looking smaller somehow than I remembered. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans and a polo shirt, and I realized I'd never seen him in anything but a suit before. "Victor, Daniel, may I come in?" I stepped aside. Elena emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She saw her father and froze. "Dad."
Elena.
I wanted to talk, if you have time." We sat in our small living room. Elena made coffee. She always made coffee when things were uncomfortable. Old habit from her teaching days. "The company is doing well," Victor said, accepting the mug. "Sharon's quarterly reports are impressive. Better than mine were." "She's very qualified," I said. "Yes, qualified. That seems to be the word of the day." He looked around our modest living room. "You know, this is the first time I've ever been here. In 25 years. First time you've ever visited, yes." He nodded, acknowledging the point. "You could buy any house in Arizona. Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, anywhere. Why stay here?" Elena sat down next to me, took my hand. "Because this is our home, Dad. This is where we raised Sophia. Where we've been happy." "Happy?" He said the word like he was testing it. "In 1,400 square feet." "Yes." Long silence. Victor stared into his coffee mug like it held answers. "I spent 50 years building an empire," he finally said. I have the mansion, the cars, the reputation. But I lost my daughter for 25 years. I barely know my granddaughter. My son won't return my calls. And for what? His voice broke on that last word. I was so convinced that success meant money and status and legacy. But you. He looked at me directly for maybe the first time ever. You had all that and chose this instead. And you were right. Victor. No, let me finish. He set down the mug.
I'm sorry.
Elena, I'm so sorry. For not coming to your wedding. For treating Daniel like he wasn't good enough when he was always better than me. For making you feel like you had to choose between your family and your husband. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Dad. You chose right. He was always good enough. I was the one who wasn't good enough to see it. The doorbell rang. Sophia burst in with takeout bags. She'd been shopping and decided to grab lunch for everyone. Oh, she stopped when she saw Victor. Grandpa, you're here. Sophia. He stood awkwardly. I was just talking to your parents. Are you staying for lunch? She asked, and her voice was careful but not hostile. If they'll have me. Sophia looked at Elena, who nodded. Of course, but fair warning, we're eating on paper plates and the portions are huge. Victor laughed despite himself, and I heard tears in it. We crowded into the small kitchen. 7 people. Maria had come with Victor, and Dominic showed up halfway through, invited by Sophia via text. The table only seated 4, so we ate in shifts, standing around the counter, passing containers back and forth. Victor helped wash dishes afterward, actually stood at our sink, drying plates with a dish towel while Elena washed. I watched him from the doorway. This man who'd spent his whole life being served, being catered to, now doing mundane household chores in his daughter's modest duplex. Dad, Elena said quietly as they worked, this doesn't fix everything. I know. It's going to take time. A lot of time. I know that too. He set down a dried plate. But I have time now. I'm retired, whether I want it to be or not. And I'd rather spend it trying to rebuild relationships than sitting in that mansion alone. Why now? She asked. Why finally come here after 6 months? Because I've been sitting in that house you mentioned, the one that Daniel helped me keep, and I realized something. I built an empire, but I don't have anyone to share it with. You built a family, a real one, based on love and respect and shared values. And I want to be part of that, even if I don't deserve it. Elena dried her hands, turned to face him. You're my father. You'll always be my father. But you're right. You don't deserve it. Not yet. You have to earn it back. How? By showing up, like you did today. By being honest. By treating Daniel with the respect he's always deserved. By getting to know your granddaughter as the remarkable woman she's become, not the disappointment you imagined. Victor nodded. I can do that, if you'll let me. We'll see. But she hugged him, and I saw both of them crying. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Elena and I sat on our small porch watching the sunset. It's something we'd done almost every day for 25 years. Just sitting, holding hands, watching the Arizona sky turn colors that seemed impossible. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Staying quiet for so long? Never. Really? Elena, I had 2 choices. I could have revealed the truth early, proved your father wrong, maybe earned his respect. But then you would have always wondered if you married me for the right reasons. If I loved you or if I just wanted to get back at Victor. She squeezed my hand. And instead, we built something real. Something that had nothing to do with money or status or proving anything. We chose each other every single day, knowing that the world thought we were struggling. And that was more valuable than any empire. You're saying you'd do it all again? 25 years of insults and dismissals. For this, I gestured at our small duplex, at the life we'd built. For you and Sophia and Saturday nights cooking together and Sunday morning breakfast in our cramped kitchen? Elena, I'd do it for 100 years. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I love you. I love you too. So what happens now? With Victor, with the company, with everything? Now? I thought about that. Now we see if your father meant what he said. If Dominic finds himself at business school. If Sophia's nonprofit keeps growing. And we keep living our life exactly the way we want to. In this duplex. In this duplex. With the old Corolla. With the old Corolla. Even though you're worth $1.7 billion. Especially because I'm worth $1.7 billion. The money doesn't change who we are, Elena. It never did. The sun finished setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and deep red. Somewhere in Scottsdale, Victor was sitting in his mansion, maybe finally understanding what he'd lost all those years ago. Somewhere on the ASU campus, Dominic was studying for exams, discovering who he was without his father's name. And right here, in our 1,400 square foot duplex in Mesa, Elena and I were exactly where we wanted to be. Some people measure wealth in dollars. Some measure it in the moments that matter. I've always known which one I'd rather be rich in. The board meeting has happened. The empire has fallen. And now we're watching the aftermath. But the real question is, can a family torn apart by pride and money ever truly heal? Stick around for the final part of this story, where we find out if Victor's apology is real, if Dominic finds himself, and what it really means to be wealthy. If this story has moved you, if you're thinking about what really matters in life, drop a comment below and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this, stories about real values in a materialistic world, are what we need more of. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Elena was right that evening, we did have everything. But the story of how we got there, how we built this quiet life on top of a financial empire, that's the part one haven't told you yet. The part that makes all of this make sense. It started 27 years ago in the most unremarkable way possible. I was 23, working at Martinez Auto Repair on the east side of Phoenix, covered in grease up to my elbows, trying to figure out why a 1996 Civic was making a noise that sounded like a cat being strangled. The door chimed. I looked up, and there she was. Elena Castellano walked into that garage like she'd walked into 1,000 places before. Confident, but not arrogant. Beautiful in a way that didn't need announcement. She was 21, wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and she was pushing a beat-up Honda Accord that had clearly given up on life about 3 blocks ago. "Hi," she said, slightly out of breath. "I think my car died." I wiped my hands on a rag and walked over. "You think?" She laughed. "Okay, my car definitely died. Can you help?" "Could." I did. Alternator was shot, battery was corroded, and the serpentine belt looked like it had been through a war. I told her it would take a few hours, maybe until the next day if we had to order parts. "That's fine," she said. "I'll wait." She waited. We talked. She told me she was studying business at ASU, wanted to work in nonprofits, didn't care much about making money but cared a lot about making a difference. I told her I liked fixing things, that there was something honest about mechanical problems. They had solutions, clear causes and effects, no politics. "Unlike people," she said. "Unlike people," I agreed. When I finished the repair, I charged her cost for the parts, no labor. She insisted on paying full price. I insisted she didn't. We compromised on coffee. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a month of dates. A month turned into 6 months of falling completely, hopelessly in love with someone who made me feel like the world was bigger and better than I'd ever imagined. Then I met her father. Victor Castellano owned Castellano Luxury Properties, high-end hotels, resorts, commercial real estate across the Southwest. He was successful, powerful, and the moment I walked into their Scottsdale mansion for Sunday dinner, I knew exactly what he thought of me. "So, Daniel," Victor said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "Elena tells me you're a mechanic." "Yes, sir," I said. "And what are your prospects?" "Long-term career plans." I should have seen it coming. "I'm thinking about opening my own shop someday. Maybe a small chain, something community-focused." Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Admirable. Small businesses are the backbone of America." He took a sip of wine. "Elena is going to inherit a great deal someday. I hope you understand that comes with expectations." Elena's hand found mine under the table, squeezed hard. I'm not with Elena for her money, Mr. Castellano, I said quietly. I'm with her because she's the best person I've ever met. Victor set down his fork. Young man, everyone says that. Then reality sets in. But reality didn't set in. Not the way he expected. 6 months after that dinner, my uncle, my mother's brother, a man I'd met exactly 3 times in my life, died. He was 78, a reclusive investor who'd made a fortune in tech stocks in the 80s and 90s and never spent a dime of it. He lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Tempe, drove a 1987 Buick, and apparently thought I was the only family member worth leaving his money to. $340 million. I sat in the lawyer's office, staring at the paperwork, completely numb. This has to be a mistake, I said. It's not, the lawyer replied. Your uncle was very specific. He left you everything. There's a letter. I opened it. The letter was 1 page, handwritten in shaky script. Asterisk Daniel, I watched you grow up from a distance. You're the only one who never asked me for anything. Money ruins most people, but I think you might be different. Don't tell anyone. Live your life. Use this to do good. Don't become what you hate. Uncle Martin asterisk. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. Not even Elena. I hired a financial advisor, set up Morrison Capital Management as a private investment firm, and started moving carefully. I didn't want to flash the money, didn't want it to change anything. I wanted to see if Elena and I could build something real, something that wasn't about wealth or expectations or her father's empire. We got married a year later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Victor didn't smile once in the photos. And then I started investing. Carefully, quietly. Morrison Capital made moves in real estate in emerging markets in undervalued properties that I knew, because I was listening, because I paid attention, would boom in 5 to 10 years. By 2005, I turned that $340 million into $680 million. In 2008, the economy collapsed. Castellano Luxury Properties was hemorrhaging money. I knew because Elena was worried sick about her father, about the family business going under, about her parents losing everything. Victor was too proud to ask for help, too proud to admit he was in trouble. So I helped. Anonymously. Morrison Capital purchased a struggling commercial property portfolio from Castellano at a fair price. Not a steal, but enough to inject liquidity. Then I bought more. And more. Over the next 7 years, I quietly acquired 47% of Castellano Luxury Properties through shell companies, holding firms, and third-party transactions that kept my name completely out of the picture. Victor never knew who was buying. He just knew someone believed in his company enough to invest. By 2010, I was worth over $1 billion. And Elena had no idea. That's when she found out. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the garage working on the Corolla, and Elena was cleaning out the filing cabinet in our tiny home office. I heard her stop. Just stop. The silence was so complete, I knew something was wrong. I walked inside. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by papers, holding a Morrison Capital quarterly statement in her hands. Her face was pale. "Daniel," she said, her voice shaking. "What is this?" I sat down next to her. "It's complicated. You're worth $1.3 billion? Approximately." She stared at me. "How long?" "I inherited it 12 years ago. I've been building it since." 12 years. She wasn't angry. She was shocked. Hurt, maybe. Confused, definitely. "Why didn't you tell me?" I took a breath. "Because I needed to know you chose me. Not the money. Not the security. Not because it would make your life easier or because it would prove something to your father. I needed to know that you loved me for me, and that I loved you for you, and that what we built together was real." Tears ran down her face. "You thought I'd love you for your money? I thought it would change things, and I didn't want anything to change." She was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at the papers again, at the Morrison Capital letterhead, at the shareholder reports for Castellano Luxury Properties. "You own half my father's company," she said slowly. 47%. "He doesn't know." "No." She looked up at me, and something shifted in her eyes. Not anger. Something else. Something sharper. He's been awful to you for 12 years. I know. He's insulted you, belittled you, treated you like you're beneath him. I know. And you've been saving his company the entire time. Yes. She was quiet again. Then she folded the papers, stood up, and pulled me to my feet. Okay, she said. Okay. We don't tell him. Not yet. Not until the time is right. She held my face in her hands. But when we do, Daniel, when we finally do, I want to be there. I want to see his face. Can we agree on that? I smiled. We can agree on that. And one more thing, she said. What? We keep living exactly like this. This house. This life. Because you were right. This is real. The money isn't. And I don't want the money to change us. So we made a pact. We'd wait. We'd live modestly. We'd use the wealth quietly for Sophia's education, for Elena's nonprofits, for investments that helped communities, not just portfolios. And when the moment came, when Victor finally pushed too far, we'd reveal everything. That moment came 15 years later at a dinner table in Scottsdale, when my father-in-law offered me a $38,000 a year job like he was doing me a favor. Now, sitting on the front step of our duplex 6 months after that dinner, watching the last light fade from the desert sky, I thought about all of it. The inheritance I never asked for. The empire I built in secret. The family I almost lost and then got back. Do you regret it? Elena asked, reading my mind the way she always did. The waiting. The hiding. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. Because if I'd told you right away, you might have wondered. If I told your father, he would have treated me differently, and I wouldn't have known if it was real or just respect for money. And Sophia, I smiled. Sophia got to grow up in a home where wealth wasn't the point, where what mattered was character and kindness and showing up. She turned out pretty great, Elena said softly. She did. And your father, I paused. He's trying. That counts for something. Victor had been coming around more often. Sunday dinners at the duplex, not the mansion. He'd started asking Sophia about her nonprofit, really asking, listening to her answers. He'd apologized to Elena 3 more times, each one a little less stiff, a little more real. He and I weren't friends. We probably never would be. But there was something there now that hadn't existed before. Respect, maybe, or just honesty. You know what the funny thing is? Elena said, leaning her head on my shoulder. What? You spent 27 years proving you didn't need money to be worthy. And he spent 27 years proving he didn't need anything but money to feel secure. And in the end, you both learned the same lesson. Which is that neither of you were right. Money's just a tool. It's what you build with it that matters. And you, she kissed my cheek. You built a family, a real one. The stars were coming out now, sharp and bright in the desert darkness. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. The city hummed, indifferent and endless. Think we should move? I asked. We could afford Scottsdale now. Or anywhere, really.
Elena laughed.
Are you kidding? I love this place. It's us. It's small. It's enough. And she was right. It was enough. It had always been enough. The story could end there, I suppose. Neat and tidy. The secret billionaire revealed, the family reconciled, the lessons learned. But that's not quite how life works, is it? There's always more. Always another chapter. 3 months after that conversation, Sophia's nonprofit received a $50 million anonymous donation, the largest in its history. She called me, crying, overwhelmed, asking if I knew who it was.
No idea. Primer lit.
A week later, Elena got a letter. It was from Victor, handwritten, 3 pages long. In it, he apologized, really apologized, for every slight, every insult, every moment of cruelty. He said he'd spent his whole life building an empire because he thought that's what made him valuable, what made him a good father. He said he was wrong. He said he wished he'd learned it sooner. The last line read, I hope someday I can be half the man you saw in Daniel before I did. Elena cried when she read it. So did I. And Dominic left Castellano Luxury Properties and started his own firm. Not real estate, sustainable urban development, focusing on affordable housing and green building practices. He called me for advice every few months, and every time his voice sounded lighter, freer. I didn't realize how much I hated it. He admitted one night over beers at our duplex, living his dream instead of mine. "You're doing good work now," I said. "I learned from the best." He raised his glass. "To hiding in plain sight. To living in plain sight," I corrected. We drank to that. As for me and Elena, we're still in the duplex, still driving old cars, still living the same life we always did, just with a little less weight on our shoulders. Morrison Capital keeps growing, keeps investing in projects that matter, that help people. I go to the occasional board meeting now, no longer anonymous, no longer hiding. And you know what? Feels good. Not because of the money, not because of the power, but because I finally stopped pretending. I stopped hiding behind a mask of modesty that was really just fear. Fear that wealth would corrupt me. Fear that people would see me differently. Fear that I'd become like Victor. But wealth doesn't corrupt people. People corrupt wealth. And if you remember that, if you keep your values straight, if you love the people in your life more than the numbers in your account, you'll be fine. I know what some of you might be thinking, that this is a fantasy, that real life doesn't work this way, that nobody actually lives like this. And you're right, most people don't. Most people who get money spend it, flash it, use it to prove something. Most people who marry into wealth either get consumed by it or destroyed by it. Most family conflicts don't resolve with tearful apologies and Sunday dinners. But some do, and that's worth remembering, because the real lesson here isn't about money. It's about identity. It's about knowing who you are when nobody's watching, when nobody cares, when there's no reward for being good except being able to live with yourself. Victor spent 74 years believing his worth came from what he built. I spent 27 years believing my worth came from what I refused to show. We were both wrong. Your worth isn't your bank account. It's not your job title. It's not your house or your car or how many people know your name. It's what you do when no one's looking. It's how you treat people who can't do anything for you. It's whether you can sleep at night knowing you lived with integrity. That's the inheritance that actually matters. That's the empire worth building. And that's the story I'll tell Sophia's kids someday. When they ask why Grandpa and Grandma live in a duplex in Phoenix when they could live anywhere in the world, I'll tell them, because this is where we chose each other. This is where we built something real. And no amount of money could ever buy that. The duplex is quiet now. Elena's inside making tea. The stars are out, infinite and indifferent. And I'm sitting here, 50 years old, a billionaire in a thrift store jacket, thinking about all the ways life surprises you. I never told my wife I owned 47% of her father's $1.4 billion company. Until I did. And it turned out, she'd been waiting 15 years for me to finally stop hiding. Sometimes the best secrets are the ones you finally let go of. If this story meant something to you, if it made you think about wealth differently, about family, about what really matters, leave a comment below. Tell me, what would you do with a secret inheritance? Would you tell anyone? Would you change your life? And hey, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. More stories like this coming your way. Stories about real people facing impossible choices. Stories that make you think. Thanks for watching. And remember, you're richer than you think, in ways that actually matter.